Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Kluge, and I'm the chair of the Pflugerville Council of Neighborhood Associations. And I'd like to welcome everyone to the Candidate Forum, which is part of the Facona's Pflugerville Votes program. Tonight we have with us 3 candidates for the 2 city council seats. After the candidates are elected, we'll have many opportunities to learn about the candidates' views and priorities. But this is an opportunity to get a better idea of those views and priorities before they are elected. The election will take place May 10th. Early voting will take place April 28th through May 5th. Now, after a few housekeeping notes, the candidates are going to give their opening statements, and then we're going to move into a period of facilitator questions where I'll ask them a few questions, and each of them will have an opportunity to respond. And then we'll move into the section where audience members can ask questions. They can either come up and ask questions at the microphone here, or if you've picked up the yellow Post-it notes at the back there, Rod has some, you can write a question on those Post-it notes and raise them up, and he'll pick them up from you at any time during the program here. And following that, they'll have their closing statements, and that will conclude our event for tonight. So with that, I'll move on to the housekeeping notes. This will be broadcast on Channel 10 on Suddenlink Cable. I'd ask everyone to turn off cell phones and pagers or move them to vibrate. If you need to get up from your seat during the program, please do so quietly. Questions from the audience, we're going to ask that they be directed to all candidates so that all candidates have an opportunity to answer the question. The next one, audience members should come up to microphone, as I mentioned, to ask the question or turn in the Post-it note to Rod. And we'd ask you to respect those who are speaking. Next candidates, the shorter your answers, the more questions we can get through. And Joanne, right in front there, has the 3 cards to give you an idea of your time. We're going to ask that the opening statements be about 3 minutes per person. And when she holds up a yellow card, or a green card rather, you have 1 minute left, and a yellow card means 30 seconds left, and a red card means time to close it off. And that concludes our housekeeping notes. And with that, I would like to open up the candidate opening statements part of the program. And if we go alphabetical, I'd like to ask Mike Marsh to come up and give us his opening statement.
Thank you. My name is Mike Marsh, and I've lived here for going on 25 years now. And I've been involved in various aspects of the city. I believe that if you're a successful member of your community, then you owe your community a debt of service. And that has prompted me in my past to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission, on the Capital Bond Advisory Commission, on the PCDC, and various other sundry parts, whether it's in my church or in Little League. One of the reasons the primary reason that I decided to file for candidate for place 2 was that for 25 years I've lived here in the city of Pflugerville with a large property tax burden. And we've always dreamed of the day when we would have business come here and we would have the opportunity to lower that property tax burden on the homeowners. And our current council, our standing council, the PCDC, a lot of people have worked very hard and very diligently to attract the business and to guide the business to the right locations to facilitate business development here. And we are now to the point that we have this new revenue in 2 forms coming into the city. One of them is property tax and the other is sales tax. And I would like to see the sales tax be used to reinvest in the city's infrastructure and to handle the growing city responsibilities that are associated with the commercial development here. More importantly, I would like to see the property tax rates be reduced in proportion to the amount of revenue that the city is realizing for the next 2 or 3 years. That's a pretty large undertaking. But if we don't start on it now, we're not going to start on it for a long time. So basically my platform is I'm very concerned about the city budget and how we can be more efficient and how we can reinvest the sales tax into our infrastructure and the property tax back into our homeowners. I just got a card. Oh, I'm through.
Starlet?
Hi, I'm Starlet Sattler. I've been a resident of Pflugerville for 15 plus years. I have raised two children, 22 and 19, both of which have graduated from Pflugerville High School. I have been active in this community for all the 15 years that I've been here, first with school, sports, swim team, those types of things. For the past 10 years, I have been on the Deutschenfest committee. I have really enjoyed that. It's a party for the whole city, so that's fabulous to be on such an event. The last 3 years of the Deutschenfest, I have been chair. This will be my third fest as chair. For the last 5 years, I've been on the Planning and Zoning Commission Planning and Zoning Commission. The City Council appointed me as the Planning and Zoning Commissioner just after they had appointed me for the Personnel Appeals Board. So I have been very active in the city. As far as things that I would like to see happen in the future, there were some things that were left off the bond that I think are still important, and I would like to come up with a way to make those things happen. And one would be the dog pound. And then I still think a dog park is something that's a viable thing for the city of Pflugerville. We have a growing city, and it's a family-oriented city, and typically families do have pets. And with the leash law as it is, then we just need some place that we can take our pets and let them run and play and throw a frisbee back and forth. So I think my commitment to the city stands for itself in that I am committed. I have been to attend city council meetings for 8 years now. I've really enjoyed the city council meetings, and I'm really enjoying learning what it takes to run a city, not just plan a city. Thanks.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Fred Velarde, and I have been in the city of Pflugerville. I moved here in the year 2000. I have 30 years' experience as a professional in the utility industry. I have served on the Charter Review Committee for the city. I'm a president and past secretary of the PCDC. I have also been a member of the Pflugerville, of the Kilowatt Federal Credit Union Board of Directors, and I have a vision of what I think the city should be in the future. You know, we have 40,000 people in the city with the annexing that we've done this last year, and we're looking in the next few years to get up to 56,000. And one of the things that I think we ought to do is we need to plan to do things the right way. In other words, we need to look at our infrastructure. We need to look at all the necessities that we're going to need as we grow. When I served on the 45-130 Advisory Committee, talking about the toll road, you know, they're projecting our growth by 2030 to be, 130,000 people. That's a lot. So you have to figure out a way to plan the infrastructure that you're going to need and the type of services that the city needs. You have to look at police. You have to look at all sorts of things. So anyway, that's pretty much what I am in a nutshell. So thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the facilitator question part of the program. And if anyone came in after I started this, back with Rod Reyna, there are yellow Post-it notes, and you can write down any questions that you might have for the candidates, and we will answer them in a little bit. Okay. I'm going to ask 6 questions to the candidates, and we'll just have the candidates sit at the table here and answer the questions. The first question is, what are the top 3 issues you will promote during the next 3 years, and what talents or skills do you bring to the table to address these issues. And
Charlotte, would you like to?
Okay, the top 3 issues. I think that probably right now I can come up with a couple of issues that I would like to address. I would know that once you really get your feet in there and you know more of what's going on, you're going to come up with additional issues that you would like to address in the future. To say these are the 3 I'll address for 3 full years is a lot to say. Like I mentioned a while ago, I do think that what we have as a dog pound needs to be something a little different than a dog pound. It needs to be a dog rescue center, and it needs to be larger and a bigger, nicer facility than what it is right now. Also, I think that if the bond package passes or the City Hall passes on the bonds, I think that the next thing that we really need to do, and 3 years is the timeline, is to make sure that the City Hall that we have currently has something done with it so that it can be a viable economic driving factor for downtown. There's several things I think that you could do with the piece of property. It's going to need a lot of updating and so forth. But with the atrium area that's between the 2 front buildings, Suite 100 and 200, I think is what it is, I think that you could put some kind of little cafe or that type thing in there. So I think that we have a lot of opportunities with that building, assuming that the bond passes.
Well, the 3 things that I think that I'd like to address are, first of all, common sense growth for the city of Pflugerville. The other thing is lowering property taxes and bringing jobs to the city. One of the things is that we have leakage, what they call leakage in the city, and that's when people leave the city to go and work out somewhere else, whether in Austin or wherever, and then come back, and so, like a bedroom community. We want to bring in jobs that are going to create opportunities for our citizens as well as our youth to be able to work here, live here, and stay here in the city of Pflugerville. And that actually will help, is helped by lowering property taxes. Property taxes can be lowered by some of, like, we're already seeing a growth spurt that is helping with our tax base. In the Verde group that's working out there, that's building the buildings out there for bringing in jobs and different companies to come in and work on that. And then we have, of course, the Stonehill Center. And we have had, of course, Walmart. And you see the growth around there. So these things are already started. And what I'd like to see is us take the next step and plan better.
I hope I don't sound like a broken record, but my number 1 priority would be to reduce the tax rates, the property tax rates. Right now, we are 24% above the average of the surrounding communities in our property taxes. Our property tax right now is about 62 cents, and it ranges from a low in Georgetown of 35 cents to a high in Pflugerville of 62 cents. There's 8 cities surrounding us that I measure the tax rates in, and it's time for us to take advantage of the commercial growth and the ad valorem property tax base increase and lower the property taxes for the homeowners and for the business owners in Pflugerville. The second issue that I would pursue would be the reinvestment of the increase in the sales tax that we're going to realize back into the city's operations, with the primary beneficiary of those sales tax dollars being towards public safety and public necessity. That means that we would, as our neighborhoods grow and as our business community grows, we're going to have a lot of increased demands upon our police department and our city infrastructure, our roads, our utilities. And previous councils have done a very good job in setting the stage for the growth we're going to experience. Now it's time for us to continue with their commitment and take these sales tax dollars and put them back into something else, back into the infrastructure. It's very important for the continued business growth of this town that we maintain and honor our obligations that we've made to these businesses that are coming in, that we have good roads, that we have good water, we have good drainage. We have a good police department. All of these things that attracted them here in the first place, we have to maintain our obligations and our commitments to them that brought them here in the first place. So decrease the property tax rate based on the increased ad valorem base that we're growing, and reinvest our sales taxes back into the public necessity and public safety issues that we face. I have never served in public service as I will with the city council. My experience has all been in business. It's all been designing budgets and meeting budgets, and I have a red tag. I'm done. Thank you.
All right, the next question is, what are your thoughts on the 3 city bond proposals? And initially I had told the candidates we'd work from one end to the back, and that way the same candidate wouldn't always have the shot at the first shot at the question, but then I realized that Fred is always going to get the middle opportunity, so there's kind of a flawed system there. So if this is the second question, I might ask Fred to answer it first, and then we can go with Starlet and Mike, and then we'll mix it up next time. I'll read it one more time. What are your thoughts on the 3 city bond proposals?
I'll tell you what I really think. When the I'm glad that the city council saw fit to let the people. Oh, pardon me. Okay. Well, I thought I was loud enough. I don't know. Sorry. I really like the fact that the city council, went ahead and put the vote before the citizens of Pflugerville. I think the only people that really need that or really have the idea of what they really want are the citizens. So we have to listen to them, and to do that, you have to put it to a vote. It's telling you how the citizens want the city to grow, and in those areas. So I think it's absolutely important that gets done. I understand about the city hall. I think we need a new city hall, and I'm just glad that we did that. That finally the city citizens have a chance to talk about it and decide.
Okay, the 3 bond proposals. I'm excited about all 3 of them. The first one being City Hall. When I first heard that they were going to move City Hall, I got a little concerned and kind of upset about it, because in my mind, City Hall should be downtown. But once I really started thinking about it and realized how much space it would take downtown for us to build a City Hall that would hold us for the next 10 or 15 years, it's going to take up so much of the space that we have that we would have hardly anything else downtown but City Hall. So unless you build really tall, and I don't think that that's really something that would look that great there. So I do know that we need a new facility, and as far as where it's located, I was not in those conversations, but I do agree that we do need a new facility. The Parks Department, my son worked for the Parks Department for 2 years, and I have friends who use the rec center there, and I know how much space is there and how little space is there actually and how much people need it. So I think a rec center is fabulous, and a library is always fabulous. With that said, I'm excited to hear what the residents think. When I looked at the big dollars, it scared me for my taxes personally. And then when I really added it up, broke it down to month, then when I looked at it for my house, it'll be about $8 a month. So that really doesn't make that big of an impact on my daily life, and it may actually have a very good impact on my neighbors and my kids.
The City Hall plan is a beautiful plan. I don't think anyone can disagree that we need a new City Hall, but I worry that we can afford it right now. Again, I would like to see job number 1 be a reduction in our tax rates. If we can afford a new City Hall without increasing our tax rates, or if we can modify the existing City Hall to make it more amenable to business operations without a tax rate increase, then I would be in favor of it. Right now, I have to say I'm opposed to it until I see the numbers otherwise. As far as the recreation center goes, there's a company that wants to bring in a private gymnasium with more features than the new recreation center will have. It will also have an after-school daycare program. that will involve students in a curriculum type environment to follow up with their school. And I think we need to leave that to the private sector. I don't think that's a public necessity. I think that's a public convenience or a public want. The third one, the library, we realize a tremendous number of trips through the library. I was surprised at the number of trips or number of visitors that the library reports. And I don't know about the library. I have to be honest with you yet. I don't know why those people are coming in there. I don't understand the trips yet. It's something I need to delve into further. But as far as the city hall goes, I don't think we can afford it. The recreation center can be done better by the private sector, and the library, I'm undecided on.
All right, very good. The third question, what has been your experience with homeowners associations or neighborhood associations, and what do you see as an association's role in relation to the city? And I guess we'll start with Mike.
Being an advocate of less government, I think that homeowner associations are very important because I believe that brings the control of your local living environment down to the local level where it belongs. There are some instances where homeowner associations are much more effective and much more viable than the city injecting a single standard across the entire community. There's also situations where homeowner associations overstep their boundaries, but I believe that that can be cured at the local level. It doesn't necessitate city involvement. And I think the homeowners that live in the communities and are members of the homeowner associations can self-determine how they want their neighborhood to look.
I agree with what Mike says, to be honest with you. The homeowners associations are vital in getting the will of the people to the city council, being able to talk to them and finding out what the issues are for each neighborhood. I think that they serve a great purpose, and I would, as a council member, I would listen to them very closely.
Homeowners associations. I live in a neighborhood that does not have a homeowners association. The neighborhood I lived in prior to that did have, and I had big concerns about moving into a neighborhood without an HOA. I like for my yards to be kept up and for the trash can to be pulled in and all those types of things. So I did have issues with that. So I think homeowners associations is a very valuable asset to the city and to the neighbors. I do understand, however, that there are some people who do not like HOAs. They do not want to live in them. And so at some points in the city, you kind of need a couple of places for those people to live that want to have their stuff outside or not have to mow their yard or not pull their trash cans in or whatever. As far as the other part of the question, and it was, let me look at it real quick. How are their roles with the city? I think it's very important that not only the city listen to the HOA members and or president or whatever they are, but also it's very important that the HOA takes a step forward and they participate with the city council meetings so that they can inform their residents as to what's going on, because I think that it is the HOA's somewhat responsibility to keep their neighbors invested in the community.
Hey, thank you. And I'd like, again, to remind everyone that if you have a question, if any of these answers that I give prompt additional questions in your mind, please write it down on one of the yellow sticky notes and hold them up, and Rod will pick it up from you. Next question. What are some issues that you think are not being addressed in our city and that we have more to work on? And you want to start with Starlet?
Let's see. I think some of the things that we really have a lot more to work on is going to be the downtown plan. It's something that I have been sitting through many meetings of, and we need to get a clear idea of what we want our downtown to look like. And I really think that that's something that we need to spend some more quality time, not quantity time, on. Infrastructure would, of course, be another one. We have lots and lots of roads that we really need to do work on to expand and so forth. And I understand that there's an issue always with money. But hopefully, as more commercial development comes through, we'll find that we will have more of those funds to be able to put those roads through for the commercial developments as well as for the residents. We need to be able to move people and goods and money back and forth.
What I see is some of the needs that are not being addressed right now is that we have a strategic plan for 130. We need to implement that plan. We need to to have a strategy where we develop the land on both sides of 130 for it to be one of the key things that would give us taxes and income in order to fund some of these other things, especially roads. We need roads out back that way, because east of us, because we can't go north, we can't go south. The only place we can really go is east. And the PCDC and the City Council have worked to improve that movement that way. So I think that those are the things that I see as some of the most important things, is we need to get down and get that plan implemented.
The question includes, what do you think is not being addressed in our school district? And I'd like to step outside my authority here and give my opinion on that. I've had a couple of conversations with our superintendent, Mr. Dupree, about a career school. Pflugerville School District is considering a fourth high school. They know we need a fourth high school. But our curriculum doesn't offer a whole lot to our youth that don't want to go to college. And I'm in the construction business, and I can tell you that there is a lack of plumbers and electricians and welders, framers. These are the people who build our community. And if you don't think they're important enough, then imagine our life without shelter, without plumbing, without electricity. And the school board is considering and studying a career school centrally located where students from all over the district would come, and there would be a full culinary kitchen, there would be a welding shop, a carpentry shop, an electrical shop, where these kids could learn some skills instead of going out to, instead of trying college and dropping out. We've got a very good friend of ours whose parents are both college educated, and he went to school and attended his first year and had a miserable experience doing it. This young man can build a car out of a shoebox. So his parents wisely said, you know what, college is not the route. We need to get you and spend the funds we would help support you with in college towards perhaps setting up an auto mechanic shop and going into business for yourself. I think our school district and our community needs to start training those people who don't want to go to college and who aren't interested in it into creating their own business for themselves and becoming self-employed.
All right, the fifth question, and I think this one starts with Fred, if I remember correctly. How will you stay informed about what neighborhoods and residents' concerns are before you vote on an issue that impacts them?
Well, the way I think I would do it is make sure that I attend any HOA meetings where I'm invited. I wouldn't want to crash the party, but I would like to attend them so I can get some feedback from the people. My phone number would be posted so that anybody had any question or anything like that, they could go ahead and call me or email me, and we could find out what some of the issues are that are important to the people. And then once I look at that and can discern the things that are the most important, bring them to the city council, talk about it, and see what we can do about
it. Several years ago, I was actually a participant in FACONA. And for me, I think participating in FACONA is the best use of my time to keep up with what the HOAs and the neighbors are thinking and their concerns. Planning and zoning their meetings are the first and third Mondays. And apparently, somehow, FACONA got switched to one of the Mondays that we have P&Z. So I'm unable to go to FACONA meetings, and I do miss that. It was nice when I would be at the FACONA meetings and the question would come up, and sometimes it's just a misunderstanding when a citizen thinks that it's a large issue. And so with someone there, whether they're from planning and zoning or whether they're from city council or whatever, at least then they're able to talk to the people and explain what actually may have been said or done or what is in the process that they may have been missing. So I think that it's very important that we always have somebody here from one of those entities, whether it's planning and zoning, city council, or both.
I've had the same phone number published for 25 years. And I would invite anyone to call me, talk to me. I carry my cell phone with me from sunup till sundown. It will be impossible for me to stay abreast of every neighborhood and every citizen's concerns unless they call me and tell me about them. I'm a pretty good listener, and I invite y'all to do that. As far as trying to attend all the meetings, I don't think I can make all the meetings, folks. I have a business to run, and I'm very dependent upon people expressing their concerns to me. And so the invitation's open, and it stands, and it will not be removed, and I would invite you to call us.
Thank you. And we are going to try to move Pecona back to the second Monday of the month. The final question, and I think we start with Mike on this last question, and a somewhat related question. How will you personally make sure that citizens are kept well informed in a timely and comprehensive manner?
I believe that it's a responsibility of the citizen to stay informed, and it's my responsibility as a city council person to make sure that all city business is conducted in the open, that there's nothing done privately, there's nothing done quietly, that we make our government as transparent as possible so that citizens can stay informed and they're up to date on all the issues it faces. And that way each citizen can choose a level of involvement, the level of interest that they wish to involve themselves with.
I think that one of the things that I would try to implement is a letter to the editor or a byline in the Pflugerville flag that would help not only Channel 10 and the replaying of the city council meetings, but I think a byline in the flag is a good way to keep, a report to the citizens that don't get to see Channel 10 or whatever. I think that would be a good tool to use to try to keep people informed.
I agree with Mike. I have said for years when people would come to me and say, well, I didn't know that was going on. I didn't know that was going to be on the agenda. Sometimes people have to take it upon themselves to stay informed. The city puts it out there. They put it on Channel 10. More people get Channel 10 than they get the Pflugerville flag. The flag has less than 3,000 residents take it. It's on the website. Pflugerville has one of the easiest websites to manipulate around. I've been on Leander's, I've been on Elgin's, I've been on Round Rocks. It's a fabulous website. It's very easy to find the agendas. You just have to want to know what's going on. And so I think the city is doing what they can to get people knowledgeable about what's going on. The only other thing I could possibly think of is if you put the agendas on Channel 10. That's the only other thing I can come up with. People just have to want to be informed.
All right, thank you, candidates. We're now moving into the part of the program where we take questions from the audience members. And if anyone is joining us partway through on Channel 10, I just wanted to mention that this is the candidate forum put on by the Pflugerville Council of Neighborhood Associations. And now, if we have anyone in the audience who might like to come up and ask a question, we can do that now. Otherwise, Rod can bring up the yellow stick-em notes. Would anyone like to come up?
I think the candidates addressed this earlier somewhat, but I've had the opportunity to recently participate and be part of the Summit 1 and 2 for the downtown plan. And so my question to you candidates is, did you attend Summits 1 and 2? And what is your position on the feedback that was developed out of those two meetings? And what would you recommend as a go-forward plan for the downtown area?
And do any of you recall who had first chance last time? Otherwise, I guess we might start Mike and move down.
No, I did not attend Summit 1 and 2. I have heard some feedback from it, and it's mixed, as you would expect from various attendees with various opinions. One of my lessons that I learned on PCDC was that you have to have an identifiable downtown to be regionally known, whether it's businesses or other citizens, etc. And I think our downtown business district is very important to the identity of Pflugerville. You still have to have businesses offering goods and services that people want to be downtown. Just because if I opened up a widget shop in downtown does not guarantee me success, nor should the city government guarantee me success. I think that the city needs to do everything they can to get out of downtown's way so that they can develop their businesses downtown, that we can attract new professional services or new retail stores, and help those people, the right businesses, develop downtown so that they'll be successful, and we'll have a recognized heart of the city. Most of the developers and most of the consultants, I was on the inaugural board of the PCDC, and they all said, unless people can say, there's Pflugerville, and point to a downtown area like a courthouse, which we won't have, or some readily identifiable district, then you have a hard time establishing your identity. So downtown is a very, very important piece of Pflugerville's identity and its further development. It can't go out on 130. It can't go in other places where there's no history. I feel very strongly that we need to develop the downtown area into an identifiable heart of the city of Pflugerville.
Well, no, I did not attend Summit 1 and 2. I have heard some feedback. I've heard some things that supposedly I stood up and said, but wasn't quite true because I wasn't there. So that kind of makes me think that, I'm getting filtered information. I agree with what Mike said about the downtown being, the identity of Pflugerville. But I don't think it's up to the citizens of Pflugerville, the majority of the citizens, to carry the weight for one small section. One of the things that the PCDC does is we offer funds to help businesses get started and grow, to change their facades if they have to do things like that. One of those is the lawyers' building downtown, the lawyers' insurance down there by the creek. That was done that way. We have the ceramic shop has come to the PCDC and looked for that. We have a lot of different people and companies coming to the PCDC and asking for help. The PCDC is there to do that. But not only that, we're trying to bring in those jobs, and so those are things that are important. The city of Pflugerville the downtown city of Pflugerville is very historic. I come from a city that, Brownsville, Texas, that was, really part of Mexico before, just like this place was, but I mean, just part of Mexico before it was part of anything else. And there's some old historic buildings down there too. But, there's certain things that have to be done. You have to create a situation or the opportunity to change the businesses that are down there to grow, to give the opportunity to give them a leg up, and we do that on PCDC.
I was in attendance to both the Downtown Summit 1 and 2. The first summit, and I'm not sure how many here were actually there, but the first summit was a breakout session where there were anywhere from 10 to 15 of us in separate areas of the church, and we had traveling informers. So somebody would come and talk to us about, the city hall, and somebody would come and talk about different topics. But it turned out that there were very little time for the residents to be able to ask questions, and they were very full of questions. So the first summit, people walked away kind of disgruntled and a little unhappy. The second summit was set up differently, where we're all together in one room, and we're able to ask all those questions that people had wanted to ask in November when the first summit was. All in all, I think that the summit was good. The first one, we had about 80 people, and the second one was about 46-ish. And so you can see it declined quite a bit on the second one. But I think that the second one helped in that it allowed people to vent, if you don't mind, to say the things they needed to say and to ask the questions they needed to ask. Not all the questions got answered as the way they wanted them to, but one of the things that we on the Planning and Zoning Commission got from the summit was that we really do need to relook at how we're building downtown and what our guidelines are and how can we make it a little easier and a little more viable for some businesses to come in and build in downtown. We also need to reconsider the boundaries and, in my opinion, reconsider the name CBD. There are properties in the CBD, Central Business District, that I never think to look at you, that are being marketed in the real estate community as possible commercial, when in fact it could be in the middle of a neighborhood or it could be 2 blocks over and the neighbors really don't care for it to be. So I think that we need to change the name so that it does not have the word business in it to keep the realtors who are not familiar with the area from marketing it in that fashion.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else like to come up and ask a question? Anyone? Okay. And I think we'll go Fred, Mike, and then Starla.
I'd like to ask a question that doesn't come up here very often, but it has been discussed a little bit more over the last couple of months. I'd like to hear what each of y'all's thoughts are about what you would do to protect Gilliland Creek and Wilbarger Creek from the development that's occurring. I'm sure y'all are aware that Gilliland Creek was recently listed as impaired for recreational use for bacterial contamination lower down. And this, to me, is the canary in the coal mine. We have an opportunity now to do something to protect the creeks locally from the coming development. And I'd like to hear what y'all specifically would do.
You know, I've been in the utility business 30 years, and part of our charge is as environmental specialists. I'm a 30-year power plant chemist. I'm now a power plant chemistry consultant. I've got 30 years of being an environmental coordinator for power plants in my previous job. I think everything that I did back then and everything that we do right now, I work for the city of Austin. Austin is very environmentally green. Has to go to trying to maintain the environment because that's where people live, that's the air you breathe, that's the water you drink. All these things are important. And I think that what I would like to see in the city of Pflugerville is basically somebody put in charge of the environmental impact. Now there are impacts that are done by the DCEQ and other people like that, but I think that we need to have one person that we go to manage that, to do the environmental study before any kind of growth in those areas that are going to affect those two creeks.
I'm going to let a secret out of the bag here, but as a developer and a builder, I'm a green kind of environmentalist guy, and that's not always the most popular position to take in my industry. In our household, we only use organic fertilizers. We have a lawn treatment service that comes by. We don't put fertilizers down because of the runoff into the creek just behind us. What I found ironic in my business is that a lot of times these creeks measurements, the fecal coliform count, the creek's water quality is worse left in its natural state and actually improves when with the development controls on it are implemented and the water's filtered, etc. I know that in development you have to control your runoff, you have to control your effluent, you have to go through a lot of processes to ensure that water quality is good. I think that development, as ironic as it sounds, development might end up having a positive impact on some of the water quality issues we have around here, because in development the runoff would be controlled and the the natural state that doesn't control the runoff from the pastures or from the road surfaces would be improved. So there's a real good chance that water quality along a certain waterway may improve if you develop the land on either side of it. I know that sounds strange, but it's been my experience after 30 years in the business. And those standards have been improved dramatically. There's quite a burden on the developer in a watershed to make sure that he doesn't make the situation worse.
I find what Mike said very interesting, and I can kind of see how that does work. Once you develop the property, you don't have as much runoff because you have the sewer systems and so forth. I think that probably what the city needs to do is look at the guidelines in which we currently have for development, but what we actually need to do is educate the citizens, because part of what we may have is that the citizens are not familiar with what is running off of their particular lawns and their yards and what they're putting on it. So I think part of it is going to be to educate the citizens as far as living close to creeks.
Thank you, candidates. Any other questions? Okay. Well, if not, I see Rod bringing me some Post-it notes. Okay, and I think we start down here with Starlet and down to Fred and Mike. The question is, what do you offer the city that the other candidates do not offer?
I don't know that I'm not going to say I offer the city something that the others do not offer. I don't know the other candidates very well. Mike Marsh is the only one of them I actually know. What I can offer the city is my commitment to the city. As I said earlier, I have been a volunteer in this city for a lot of years. I volunteered for 10 years again on the Deutschenfest committee. Pass it down. Okay. On the Deutschenfest committee. But I think that one of the things that I can bring to the council is the experience that I've had with the Planning and Zoning Commission. Currently, well, after Mike gets on, we'll have 3 very economic development-minded people on the city council, and I think that we need to also have people on there that look after not only the economic development but how it affects the residents that we currently have.
What do you offer the city that the other candidates don't offer? Well, I don't really know Starlet very well. I don't know Mike very well, but I've heard a lot of good things about Mike. And one of the things that I offer is 30 years of experience in managing projects, in managing people, and knowing what we need to do, what you need to do in order to keep your costs down. So I believe that I have that experience. I believe that I was on the personnel appeals board for Central Power and Light Company. During a reorganization, there were people that didn't get their job, and they had to come to the appeals board. So, and I have that experience. I know how to talk to people and maybe, make them feel better about it or find something that they can do. So I think that I have the ability to do that, but I also have the ability to learn. I have the ability to think about what I'm doing and listen to other people. Thank you.
Let me address what I offer and not necessarily what, in comparison to what they don't have, because I don't know, like I said. I pride myself on being very candid. I pride myself on being a good listener. And I do my best to disagree without becoming disagreeable. And I think those are attributes that will serve you well on council. Because there's going to be disagreements. There's going to be a time when you need to listen. And there's going to be there's going to be continual chances where you have to respond honestly to the citizens. Your question about the environment, from your reaction, I don't know if I struck a nerve with you or not, but you deserve an honest answer in my opinion. The other thing I bring is 30 years of business. Plain old, good old common sense, try to make a profit. budget adhering business experience, and I hope that serves the city well, especially with my number one job that I want to try to bring to the council in effect, which is lowering the tax rate. That's going to take a lot of consensus and a lot of learning and a lot of listening on my part to figure out how to do that. So honesty, good listener, and a candid response to people's concerns.
I want to applaud all the candidates for being here this evening. I'm Angel Hernandez, and I have an individual question for each of you. I'll start with Mike. Mike, let me just get this clear in my mind. Were you saying that you do not have a homeowners association in your neighborhood?
No, ma'am. I live in Black Hawk, and we have a very strong homeowners association.
You do
They will
have
send me a letter if I leave my trash can out, which kind of irritates me sometimes.
Clarify that for me. I walked in over
No,
the way,
I have a very strong
very strong.
homeowners association.
Okay. That's your
Or
question.
deed restrictions, I should say, yes. I think our homeowner association is not as strong as it could be. I think it suffers sometimes from a lack of involvement from the residents.
Well, thank you. And Fred, I have an individual question for you. Again, I'm Angel Hernandez, and I would like to know what committee, other than what is on your card, are you serving with the City of Pflugerville at this time?
Right now, I'm serving with the Pflugerville Community Development Corporation. I am the president of that corporation, and the secretary last time. And
Have you done any other community volunteerism in the community?
I work with a group of people on the phone, and we're campaigning to do clean up the park. We do, things like that.
Okay. I just want to get to know who I'm voting for at this time. And Scarlett, this is your question. Has the Belchenfest committee ever felt the Hispanic culture has been left out from Belchenfest, and why has it not been implemented after all these years?
I kind of waited on that topic to come up. I guess it depends on what you call Hispanic music, because I'm not very familiar with Hispanic music, so I think that we've had a couple of bands that I would have deemed as Hispanic music. But in the past, the topic has come up, and frankly, only one band has really been mentioned to us for the most part. And in talking to Hispanic people, I've been told that that particular band will not bring in a huge crowd, that it will bring in an older crowd. But years before I got on the Deutschenfest, there were times I'm told, it was before I was there were times I'm told that they did bring in some Hispanic bands, and the people didn't show up, or the ones that were there decided not to stay there. That's been with other bands as well, I have to say. About 3 or 4 years ago, we had a band that we had hired that once the band got on stage and they played for about 15 minutes, you watched the gates just fill out. I mean, people were just lining up on buses to leave. So it doesn't really, to me, it doesn't have anything to do with whether it's Hispanic music or any other kind of music. What we're trying to do is get music that will bring in families, that will bring in age groups from 0 to 90. I don't think we necessarily look at ethnic groups necessarily. So it doesn't really have anything to do with that. We're just trying to find bands that don't make the park empty. You're welcome.
Okay, the next question. Maybe Fred can lead us off with this. How often do you attend city council meetings, and specifically how many times have you been to council in the past year?
I think I've been to the city council meeting maybe 3 times in the last year. But, I watch it, I watch the replay on Channel 10, and I also go online and look at the minutes and what the agenda was and things like that. So, although I have not attended as often as, say, Starlet has, I think I glean a lot of information that way. Plus, I don't mind calling, the city council members and asking questions.
I don't know how many times I've been in the last year. I would say probably 85 to 90% of the city council meetings I've attended. So I'm not sure how many that would really be. I enjoy going to the city council meetings because when you watch it online or you watch it on Channel 10, I find that you don't get the feeling from everybody that's involved. So a lot of times the camera's just on the person speaking and not on the reactions of the people around you and the people on the dais. So part of the reason I attend the city council meetings is to get the full picture and not just what the camera is showing.
I've attended 2 city council meetings just recently when my interest was piqued about the race and about the tax rates. Before that, I was not attending any city council meetings. They're not the most entertaining things to go to. With deference to our 2 city council members here, but there's other things that I'd rather be doing. 3, I'm sorry, we have 3 here. But I guess I better get over that pretty quick.
All right. All right, the next question, I think Mike touched on this just briefly in his last answer, but so we'll start back with him again. What made up your mind to run for city council, and have you changed your mind during the campaign?
At the risk of sounding like a broken record, it's property tax rates, folks. I'm ready for our homeowners, and I'm one of them, to realize a more realistic property tax rate. I signed up reluctantly, I have to admit. I was sitting with a group of people whose opinions I value, and they were saying, Marsh, you've always known that one of these days you're going to have to do your duty, and this is the time to do it because there's some other people besides me that aren't happy with the rates. And I told them to find somebody else, and they kept hammering on me, and eventually I came around to their way of thinking, and I agreed to do it. And since then, I haven't backed up one step. It's a 3-year commitment. It's not something I take lightly. It's not something I particularly want to do for the next 3 years, is to go to city council meetings, but I think it's important enough, and I'm convicted enough in the way I feel about it, that I'm going to do it.
I have considered being on or running for city council for about 3 years now. I've had different individuals prompting me at different times, but for one reason or another, I decided not to. And this year, it just seemed like it was time for me to do it. It was either do it now or forget about it and move on. I am in my 5th year on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and this is my last term. So I just felt like with the 5 years or 4.5 years, that I was comfortable enough to speak in public, for one thing, to actually to get on the council. And like I said, with going to all the meetings, I really have gotten an interest in how the city operates and what it takes to operate the city. And all 3 of us live in the city, and we all pay city taxes, and I would love for my taxes to go down, love. But I think that there's going to be a fine line as to how we can actually get them to go down, but I would like to be a participant when that happens.
I really wanted to do something for the city of Pflugerville. I really care about this city and where it's going. Now, the part of the question was, did you, and everybody probably knows this, I pulled out. I pulled out because I was feeling very sick. I'm diabetic, but, when you get in control of it, you come back, and I'm back. One of the things that you have to realize is that people that have a disease, sometimes go through highs and lows. And one of the things that we do is we have to step back and control it. One of the reasons I got back in it is because a lot of people were calling me and telling me, you need to get back in it. We really want you in it. Things like that. And it's across the board. The people are across the board from different areas of town, from different walks of life and all that. So I said, well, okay. I did ask permission from my wife, and she said go for it. So that's why I'm back here.
Okay, the next question is somewhat related to answers that have been expressed before. So maybe we can start with Fred. Even though he just got done answering one, I don't think this is going to be a tough one for him at all. The question is, what civic or volunteer organization are you a member of?
I have been a member of Pflugerville Families First. I'm one of the I guess, one of the original members that mobilized against an issue here in the city. And that organization, it's a loose organization, but it's made up of all different philosophies, all different religions, all different, sorts of people. And that's one that I'm a member of. There you go. Thank you.
I'm a member of Emmanuel Lutheran Church, and I just rolled off of 4 years on the church council. And I promised myself I was going to take some time off, so go figure. I'm a member of the Lions Club, and I really enjoy that. I would encourage all of y'all, if you want to really get involved in your community, come up to the Lions Club, because it's a group of pretty good guys, and they're all very civic-minded. They love kids. They do everything they can to help support kids in our schools. As grumpy as they sound, they're really a charitable group of guys, but don't ever tell them that. They'll get irritated about that. So those are my two current activities right now, Emmanuel Lutheran and the Lions Club.
Okay, repeat the question. I'm sorry. I think I went into a daze.
I guess what civic organizations you were involved in?
Was it civic or was it civic and something else?
Civic and...
Okay.
Find that question.
Doesn't matter.
I think that was it.
Okay. As far as civic organizations, again, I'm on the Planning and Zoning Commission and then the Deutschen Fest Committee for the past 10 years. I am not currently on any other organization other than I am a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and then I have about 4 memberships that have to do with real estate, but I'm sure that no one really cares much about, so we'll just stick with those 3.
Okay, the next question. Well, we can start down with Mike, and then Starlet, and then Fred. And I'll pass the Post-it note down this time so we don't forget that. If property taxes are reduced, how will you build infrastructure and support an already understaffed city staff?
If property tax is reduced, how will you build infrastructure?
And support already understaffed city staff.
There's a distinction between reducing property tax rates and reducing property tax revenue. Our rates are up here, our property tax base is growing, and we can reduce the rate we tax the property tax base at and not realize a net loss. I need to make sure that everyone understands that, in that I don't want to hurt the city. We've made commitments to our citizens. We made commitments to the new businesses coming here, and we don't need to take away the operating budget that the city's working off of. It still has to grow. But by reducing the rates in proportion to the amount that the property tax base grows, we can still realize a small gain, but I don't want to go out and keep the property taxes high, the property tax rates high, when the property tax base is also growing. Because sure, that would generate a tremendous amount of revenue for the city to operate on, but we would go out and spend that money somewhere else on things that are nice to have, but we don't necessarily have to have them right now. The number one thing we need is a property tax rate decrease as our property tax base grows, so that the city doesn't get all spendthrift and turn into Congress. We just need to take a look at our citizens first and repay them the loan they made us for the last 25 years with these high tax rates. The infrastructure doesn't need to suffer. In fact, it needs to grow. The sales tax that we're going to realize, which is very, very low right now, is going to be increasing exponentially as these new businesses come online. So the city's going to realize an increase in revenue with the sales tax growth, and they'll realize an increase in property tax revenue as a property tax base grows, the ad valorem base grows, but the rate can still come down. Now, I can tell you more how that can happen in another year, but that's my focus right now, is to start looking at that to find out how we can accomplish that.
Ditto. Property taxes have marginally come down for the last 4 years, but because our rate that our properties are increasing, the city really hasn't lost any funds, but yet was able to give us a little bit of relief on the percentage that they're charging us. As Mike said, the more retail we have come online, which we're going to start having it coming online next month, I believe. And the more retail we have come online, then we'll see that the dollars can kind of do like this, where the citizens have to pay less because the businesses are paying more.
I agree that's what we need to do. We need to lower our property rates, and that's going to be based on the growth, whether it's businesses coming in or jobs coming in. I mean, those are the things that are going to help us reduce our property tax, and we have to look at that. We can't sacrifice services like the police department. I mean, the police department, I think we gained 8 officers this past year, and we need to help our citizens on patrol. We need to get more people involved in that and things like that. So we got a growth going on here that we need to keep up. We cannot limit the amount of growth that we have because of that. We need to get those people, those businesses and things online, and then reduce our property tax, and that everything will hopefully work out that way.
Okay, for the next question, I think we'll go Starlet, Fred, and then Mike. One of the items left off the bond election was an animal shelter. Have you been to the current shelter, and if so, what was your observation?
I think I answered that one earlier for me anyway. I have, huh? Well, you would think, but it's not my writing. I have been to the animal shelter. Let me explain to you. My daughter, well, all of us are animal lovers. I could tell you how many animals I own, but it would be embarrassing. But we have personally saved 2 dogs from different shelters, not the one in Pflugerville, but from one in Austin and from one in Elgin. So the animal shelter is something that is important to me. I have been there. I do think that we need to work on it. I do know that it was taken off the bond. I'd like to try to come up with a way that we could still build a shelter with participation from possibly the schools or, some kind of fundraising situation so that we could still possibly build a shelter. It may not be $1 million shelter like was going to be proposed, but it could still be a nice facility that, if you plan it properly, can be added onto without looking like it's added onto.
No, I have not been to the animal shelter, but and I have not rescued any dogs. But I tell you, I will, do my best to make that a viable part of the city. We need to do something.
I have not seen the animal shelter in several years. I used to live across from it a long time ago, and I'm sure that it's been expanded since I last saw it. I'm a dog lover. I'm not a cat lover, I'm a dog lover. But I would really encourage people to eliminate the need for it. If people were more responsible with their pets, all my pets are spayed and neutered. If they were more responsible with their pets, we wouldn't need a doggy jail. We could eliminate that need. So I think perhaps one of the things we could do is help educate our citizenry about the doggy jail. And if they don't want their pets in doggy jail, maybe they need to be more responsible for them. If we make it too nice, they'll drop them off on the weekends when they leave town.
All right, this next one, I think Fred, Mike, and then Starlet. And this is a short answer question. Are you a Pflugerville library card holding member?
No, I'm not a trustee member of the Pflugerville Library. I'm not part of that. No, I do not have a Pflugerville library card.
No, I don't have a Pflugerville library card.
No, I do not have a Pflugerville library card.
We have 2 in our family out of 4 people, so yes, I do have one, and my daughter has one.
Okay. The next question, and I think we're Mike, Fred, and then Starlet. Pick the project or topic you feel will impact Pflugerville growth in the short term and the long term. pick a project or topic you feel that will impact Pflugerville growth in the short term and the long term.
In the short term, the thing that will most impact growth would be roads. If we want to bring a business to town, they have to have a way to get to their property, to get their vehicles in and out, to get their employees in and out. So roads is important. Infrastructure, whether it's water, wastewater, stormwater, that has to be readily available for them. The long term is just having a good plan as to what's available and be able to talk to these businesses that are looking for something 10 years out. A lot of businesses move very slowly, and 10 years is not a long term. It may be long term to us in our private households, but in the business sector, 10 years is pretty viable for businesses to start planning. So they have to look at the infrastructure, the roads, the growth, the number of rooftops. We've got all of the elements here. The previous councils have done a very good job and been very diligent in setting the stage for growth to occur. We have the single biggest factor now in Pflugerville for growth that we've lacked for years and years, and that's the road. And I compare 130 and 45 to the river. Historically, migration has moved west following transportation, which was a river. Then it became a railroad. Then it became a highway. Well, we don't have a river. They pulled our railroad up, and now we have a highway, and growth is going to occur. So by good luck, we were able to get one of the key factors to bringing growth to Pflugerville.
I also agree that roads and infrastructure are one of the most important things that we need to work on. We need to have a good plan to do that. But also one of the things that I think will help our city grow is I'm working on the health care initiative with some other people here in Pflugerville. And we're trying to get a hospital to locate here. If you think about it, then there's nothing east of us other than small clinics that would take care of anybody back this way. So I think that if we do that, we open up several different things. We open up the ability for some of our high school kids to go on to college and maybe go there, maybe a teaching high school, teaching hospital. The other thing I'd like to see happen is a university or a school, a lot like what Mike was talking about in a trade school, something like that. I know when I was going to college, that college had a trade school, and it actually fed students to a large manufacturing facility where they were electricians and welders and pipe fitters and you name it. So I think that you need to have something like that, an opportunity. Create the opportunity, create the primary jobs in this area. Those are the things that we need to do, along with the roads, along with the infrastructure.
The hard part about coming up last is that they've already taken all the good stuff. So, infrastructure was where I was going with that. I also think, and this is from being on the Planning Commission for the years I have, is that I'm very proud of the overlay that we put together for the SH 130 and 45 corridor. And I think that one of the things that we really need to do in a pet project is to stay on top of all of those and don't let them get behind. We have a couple of plans currently that have not been touched since 2004 that really need some tweaking and updating. Everything that we do, everything that we put together is always a living document. And sometimes we forget that it's living and breathing, and we need to go back and touch up on those documents and make sure they're really affecting the city the way they should, and they're serving the residents the way they should.
Okay, and we have a question from an audience member, and maybe we can start with Starlet. She can give the good answers first, and then we can move down.
Well, too bad I'm not going to throw y'all a softball on this one. All of you have been talking tonight about providing roads and infrastructure, particularly along 130 and east of 130. In my opinion, that encourages suburban sprawl, which is very expensive for communities to support. What we're seeing with Pflugerville is a checkerboard of development. It's leapfrogging. We have patches of very intense development with other areas that are undeveloped at all, or that are not developed at all, and we're having to extend our very expensive infrastructure past those undeveloped areas to serve these developing areas. First of all, would you support policies, city policies, that created a more compact, efficient Pflugerville and promoted infill in those undeveloped areas that have been leapfrogged, and how would you do that?
Lots of question there. I would definitely promote a more compact Pflugerville. I like the building up instead of the building out. I had the opportunity to go to Portland, Oregon in '06 with the Austin Chamber of Commerce and experience what Portland's done. And one of the things that Portland did that we can't necessarily do here, but to prevent just what you were asking about, was they drew a circle around town and said, okay, you can't build anything outside of this circle until all the properties inside the circle are taken up. So if there was a way of doing that without impeding somebody's rights, that would be great. I am all for infill. I look at downtown all the time and I see all those lots. I've had one listed forever. And the problem with them is that they end up costing so much money that a developer has a difficult time making a profit. If we could find a developer who didn't want to make a profit, we would probably be able to do that easier, but I haven't come across one yet. I've called several, and they all seem to want to make that profit margin. But I do agree with you, and I wish there was a way, and I don't know if there is a way, and certainly it's something that can be looked into, to get infilled before you get more outside the outside the circle or the city limits.
Well, I agree with you that there's, we don't want to have urban or suburban sprawl. What we want to do is we want to be able to have businesses come in, set them up in an area that is going to be good for the city of Pflugerville, that is going to allow the citizens of Pflugerville to work in those places and then come home. And that is going to, we're going to have a certain section of our growth area that does that. And I believe that the PCDC is already working on things like that. We're looking forward to trying to get certain businesses in and we're trying to steer them toward locating in an area that is going to be exactly that. We're going to have where you're going to have a boundary sort of, and then you're going to have the any houses or anything like that that are built in. The 130, the SH 130, 145. I mean, the 130 and 45 group, we looked at it, and we had different types of buildings that needed to go up. You wouldn't have just, single-family homes and that. You had basically town centers, and that kind of growth along not only 685 but 130. And then what that does is it naturally will fill in those areas.
Do you remember the part about disagreeing without being disagreeable? Here it comes. I would not live in Portland, Oregon, because if I was a property owner who had property available for sale outside the circle she described, I would sue the city of Portland, because they are denying me my right to participate in the free marketplace. Pflugerville is a suburban community. It was a rural community, and now it's changed to suburban. The idea of trying to get a developer to build a high-rise condos that they're developing in downtown Austin, trying to get them to develop those in Pflugerville is not going to fly. The land here is inexpensive compared to the land in downtown Austin. And yes, the development is happening in the checkerboard effect, and that is very expensive for government to try to provide infrastructure in that way. It's not the most efficient way to do it. But as it checkerboards and it jumps out to this square, and the land in between, it increases the property values. And there are property owners in Pflugerville who wait for the growth to surround them, and they want to be the last one to sell because they're going to maximize the value of their land. For government to intercede in that marketplace, government can't intercede in that marketplace activity, because it's going to hurt somebody. It's going to benefit someone, and it's going to hurt someone else. And government needs to remain neutral in the free marketplace. They need to encourage and support, but they can't dictate. And I don't know the answer to avoiding suburban sprawl in a developing rural area. It's kind of like the mass transit systems. You and I are going to have trouble if you try to take my car keys away from me, because I want to get my truck and I want to go where I want to go, when I want to go, and how I want to go. And as long as we have that Texan mentality, and it's economically viable for me to get my truck and go where I want to go, I don't know that you can avoid urban sprawl. I mean, we're a vehicle dependent state. For good or bad, it'll change in the next century, I think, because gas is going to get more expensive. It's going to be harder, and I'm getting red tagged. But you hit on something I'd love to talk to you about later. It's an interesting concept.
How many minutes do I have left? I wasn't saying do that. I was saying I saw where they were doing that. But what I think I was trying to say was that I think that it would be a positive thing for the city to put some incentive out there for growth to infill, not necessarily that we mandate that you can't sell your property that's outside the city limits. I just want to clarify.
All right, we have one question left here. I think we'll go Fred, Mike, Starlet. And as I said, this is the last question that I have up here. There were a few more questions that people submitted. Some of them were read at the microphone, and some of them were very similar to questions that were asked earlier, or the candidates had already asked those. So after I read this one question, if you had another question, you're certainly free to come up to the microphone, or if you felt that you had a question that really wasn't answered before, again, please come up to the microphone and ask it. And I would just ask that if you do come up, make sure your question is viable to all the candidates. Okay, this last one. The development of the city is of great concern to its citizens. What specific development experience do you have?
I have, I've got a lot of experience in bringing projects, founding projects, bringing them online and getting them completed and done. Those are my strong suits. Those are the things that I do well. And we're talking, I manage $1 million contracts for chemistry and for infrastructure in the power plant. So I have that experience. I have that ability. And I'm willing to do everything I can for the city of Pflugerville to do that for the city of Pflugerville.
I am a developer. I am a builder. I've been doing it for 30 years. I'm on the other side of the table from him. He manages $1 million contracts. I go borrow $1 million to do it. I've got a lot of experience doing it. And I find myself, in many cases, being my industry's harshest critic. There's some things that we can do better, and perhaps that's one of the things I can bring to the table as a city councilman, is that I know when I'm being buffaloed, because I've seen it before.
Well, unlike Mr. Marsh, I'm not a developer. I try to help sell developments. But it's been my experience, and I know you're sick of hearing me being on P&Z, but I've had several opportunities while I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I took the majority of them that I could. I am lucky in that I have a schedule that's fairly flexible, and I make up my own work, so to speak. But I've had a lot of opportunities to go to the Texas APA conferences and take classes, Texas American Planning Association conferences, and take classes. I saw somebody out there. And all of those are how to build a city. Being in the Planning Commission, all the classes that I've gone to, all the seminars, all well, even to Portland, Oregon, which it wasn't necessarily the way we wanted to build our city, but it was a very interesting place to be. It was one of those things that's okay. It was one of those places that when I came back, I was asked by the city manager, what did you learn? And I said, I learned a lot of what we really don't want to do. But it's a great place to visit. But I have had the opportunity to learn how to build and develop a city.
Any other questions? All right. So I think the last part of our activity here tonight is the closing statements for the candidates. We can ask them to come up just one more time, reiterate what their strengths are and why they feel that they should be on the Pflugerville City council. And I believe when we started out, we opened up, we started with Mike and then Starlet and then Fred. And maybe we can work backwards on the closing statements. We can have Fred come up.
Well, I'll let you know that one of the things that I am committed, I'm committed to the city of Pflugerville. You know, and I have to travel in my job once in a while. And when I go, all I want to do is get back home. The minute I get there, I want to go home. I mean, that's how I am. And I like living here. This is one of the best places I've ever lived. And I think that, you know, you got to have a love for the place in order to do good for it. And that's what I think I can bring to the city council. I have experience in managing projects and management of people. And I believe that is something else that I can bring. I also think that the experience I have working with the different groups in the city of Pflugerville, PCDC, the Charter Review Committee, the Healthcare Initiative, those kind of things give me a good understanding of where we need to go and how we need to do it. And I hope that in the end you all see that I have the ability to be a good city councilman and that you will vote for me. Thank you.
Must be older than the rest of them. Again, my name is Starlet Sattler. I'm your candidate for City Council, Place 4. I think what I bring to the table would be my experience on the Planning and Zoning Commission, my dedication, the years that I've spent volunteering for the city. I have taken a lot from this city. Like I said, I raised 2 kids, and I feel very strongly about giving back to it. I also believe that my experience sitting through city council meetings, my experiences talking to and knowing past councilmen and past mayors and past city attorneys, all the above, past city managers, I'm not sure how far back to go, anyway. But I've had the ability to talk to those people, to learn from those people, and I think that will give me the experience and the knowledge to move forward. I am open-minded, and I listen, and I think that sometimes compromise is the best way to appease everybody. Thank you, and I ask for your vote. Vote May 10th. Oh, and vote early, because the 11th is Mother's Day.
Here's my pen. I'm unopposed. I highly recommend it as a way to campaign for office. But you can help me. Since I've made it clear to everyone I've spoken to that I would be advocating lower property tax rates, your vote pushed, and when I get on the council, I can stand back and say, look how many people voted for this idea. So I still need your vote. Even though I'm unopposed, I need your vote because I need to know if you're in favor of lowering your property tax rates. I don't want to hurt the city. I don't think we have to do it. I don't think it's something we can do overnight. The city staff, in its own line, this is where I got my information, said that they projected a $1.9 million increase in our property tax revenue. And they proposed a 2% decrease in our property tax rates. That's the right direction. At least we're thinking like that. And what I want to do is try to accelerate it as fast as we can so that we can realize this and then get back to the business of building new infrastructure or building new city halls or building new libraries or building new rec centers or building new dog pounds. What? But rescue centers, not doggy jail. But if you vote for me, then I just have to say that there's some people out there that support the idea that I represented. 30 years in a businessman, I'm used to budgets. I'm used to making decisions that say sometimes you have to forego this benefit because you just can't afford it at that time. I'm not negative against our current city council. I'm not negative against the previous city councils. I think they have done an outstanding job, and they deserve our recognition for the job they've done in preparing us for the growth that we're experiencing. Now that the growth is here, let's take a look at adjusting our budgets and finding out how we can return the investment, the loan, for lack of a better term, that these homeowners have made to the city for all these years. So, and just a big turnout would be great too. That'd be good.
Coming out tonight, and whether you agree with their points of view and the thoughts that they have, I think you have to give credit to anyone who's willing to go a whole term with the city council meetings. I'd like you to join me in giving them one more round of applause.